Earl Williamson can't imagine living his life without green space.
Past a point, I can't decompress and relax in the house because I will go insane trying to do that. I come to spaces like this just to have room to relax, have room to connect with whatever, to have room to appreciate something that's not covered in concrete.
His appreciation for the environment has evolved into a full-fledged crusade that began with the creation of the East Side Parks Network.
A few years ago, we were doing some map work as far as park design, and somebody, not me, will not claim it, suddenly realized that we had a lot of parks in a real tight space. And we did a little figuring, a little more map work, and figured out that, in just 4 neighborhoods, we've got about 75 acres of parks and a couple of significant historical sites.
One of those parks was Gilliam Park, one of the oldest in the city of Atlanta. Today it's a gathering spot for people like Williamson who live in the Kirkwood community, but it wasn't always a place of beauty.
When we started taking care of Gilliam Park, it was badly overgrown in some sections with kudzu. It had a bad problem with privet, which is another bad invasive plant. It had nothing in the way of amenities. I mean, it didn't have picnic facilities, it didn't have cooking facilities, it didn't have a functional space for people to come to and enjoy.
It was overgrown, kudzu infested. You couldn't even see the back trail there, and it had all kinds of extraneous inner city accoutrements that you don't like to typically see in your neighborhood. Earl just has the drive. We never would have had a neighborhood picnic in this park 10 years ago, but now this is the site of an annual picnic because there are grills, there are tables, and that's all the result of Earl's initiative and work.
Williamson, a registered nurse by profession, is responsible for coordinating hundreds of service hours of volunteers to help develop and maintain community green spaces like Gilliam Park.
There's a real big gap now between what government would like to do and what they can do because of budget shortfalls, budget restrictions. And neighborhoods are real well positioned to kind of fill that gap. That's where your volunteers come from. Sometimes that's where your small amount of money can come from that really makes a big difference.
And volunteers led by Williamson are also making a big difference, helping to preserve history.
This is the Clay Cemetery. It dates to the early 1860s. It was originally the family burial ground for the Clay family, who were one of the original settlers in this area, having come here in 1822.
That's probably one of the projects in addition to this park that I think I'm most proud of Earl for, because when I moved in, that was completely and totally overgrown.
It had undesirable plants all the way up to the front to where you couldn't even tell this was a cemetery. It looked like an overgrown vacant lot when we started. The Kirkwood Neighbors Organization was originally unaware that this was a cemetery except for a couple of people.
7 years later, Clay Cemetery is a work in progress to be enjoyed by all.
Earl won't say no. I mean, there's no project that Earl will say no to that's parks oriented, and if he has to do it himself, all by himself, he'll make sure it happens.